Hello, everyone, and thank you for expressing interest in Abstract 2.4.08, expanding the reach of art therapy services. My name is Lacey Delery, and I'm going to share a few highlights. This project was funded by a collaboration between Blue Cross Blue Shield Louisiana and the Louisiana Public Health Institute. Project members represent Xavier University, PACE Greater New Orleans, LDH Bureau of Family Health, the New Orleans Health Department, Loyola University, the New Orleans Musicians Clinic and Assistance Foundation, and Whole Village Art Therapy. All right, so let's dive in. Our project aimed to address the lack of access to mental health care services for communities of color in New Orleans by providing funding for art therapy services and supports to members of the community who would not normally be able to receive it. We know that families of color were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. In Orleans Parish, 73.5% of COVID deaths were among Black residents, while just under 60% of the city's population is Black American. So while we know that families of color are more likely to struggle with grief and other mental health challenges as a result of COVID, we also know that culturally relevant, affordable mental health care services are often out of reach for them. For instance, in 2016, only 1.2% of art therapists identified as Black or African American. That number rose to 3.5% in 2021, but there was a large number of students who participated in that survey. So what is art therapy? Art therapy combines the art making process with talk therapy to create a therapeutic relationship. Art therapists are trained in psychological theory and learn how art making can be beneficial in a therapeutic setting. Unlike traditional talk therapy, art therapy does not require participants to have the words to express their emotions because the art created in a session can facilitate a conversation for healing. Art therapy has been and can be used in many ways to improve cognitive and sensory motor functions, foster self-esteem and self-awareness, cultivate emotional resilience, promote insight and enhance social skills, and reduce and resolve conflict and distress, among other things. So who can benefit from art therapy? Everyone. Kids, teens, adults, and the elderly have all benefited from these services. Art therapy is particularly useful for those who have experienced trauma because it allows the individual to take a step back and talk about their artwork instead of the trauma itself, and provides an avenue to release the emotions associated with that trauma, which is why art therapy is a mental health service that can be useful to low-income and families of color impacted by COVID-19. So our strategy in action. Initially, group art therapy sessions were offered to individuals who received services from PACE Greater New Orleans, the New Orleans Musicians Clinic and Assistance Foundation, and Healthy Start. We worked with each organization to identify participants, find culturally appropriate locations for sessions, and provided transportation to those who need it. And then we followed up with individual sessions to participants who expressed an interest in continuing art therapy services. And these services were provided by Whole Village Art Therapy certified art therapists. And during the project, Whole Village Art Therapy was in the process of hiring a certified art therapist to join their team. To help this organization, we provided support to identify qualified candidates. We boosted advertising and provided transportation costs for bringing top candidates to interview with Whole Village Art Therapy. And the outcomes in regard to the group workshop, there are a lot of positive outcomes. All participants within all three groups felt supported. Most participants reported improved mood, that they like trying something new, making art, and being around people and learning new ways to relax. All of the mothers and members of the elderly community appreciated that transportation was provided, and 75% of the mothers appreciated that childcare was provided. Some participants also expressed a preference for an art therapist from their same cultural background, which illuminated the need for more art therapists of color and that the community may need more support when seeking mental health services. Well, that's all, and thank you. If you want to learn more, see you at the conference.